What's up, everybody? This is the Figuring It Out Finance podcast. I'm your host, Chris Rickenbaugh, and my goal is to help young adults get started on their financial journey. So let's figure it out together. So today's topic is going to be how to track your spending. So there's a lot of questions on this and a lot of hesitation because it's not fun. It's not that sexy thing you get to talk about or that you get to show off on Instagram. But it's so necessary because this is what leads to all of those fun and cool things like travel hacking and traveling for nearly free, which is what I've done in Colombia and cheap flight tickets out to St. Louis. And then that's how you're able to sign up for the credit cards to be able to get those bonus points, because those credit cards, they have those minimum spends. So you have to spend a minimum amount to be able to get those bonus points to be able to travel for free. So if you don't know how much you spend, you don't know what cards you can sign up for. And then that's the easiest way to get yourself in debt. So before you do anything, you need to know how much you spend, especially when it comes to the travel hacking and credit cards. But flat out, I don't like to budget. So what I do, I track everything down to the penny. And it's just something fun for me to do because I'm a little bit of a money nerd. I have everything into a spreadsheet to where I can track it, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But whenever people are thinking about this and tracking your spending, no, it's not very fun. So the easiest way to do this is to keep receipts. Everywhere you go, every time you swipe your card or paid in cash, you're going to be able to get a receipt of what you bought. So hanging on to those receipts and tallying them up at the end of the day, end of the week, every couple days, that's going to be the easiest way to know exactly what you're spending and what you're spending it on. Or you could print out if you're swiping it on a debit card or a credit card, you can print out the last month's or the last 3 months of bank statements, because that's going to have every single credit card purchase or debit card purchase that you've had from your bank. And you're able to see that. Some banks even categorize it for you, which I don't really like because I kind of like doing my own thing and I'm able to see it and break it down a little bit more. But that's the easiest way to get started, because you can go back through that week and it has the date where you swipe the card, and then you can just put it into the categories from there. So what I do, since I don't really budget, I have a notes app on my phone with all the categories that I spend in, and every time I swipe my card, I get an alert on my phone, and before I can swipe that off, I record it in the notes app next to that. And it's a fun little math game too. So that's a little bit part of the nerd part. But with this, you have it in your pocket. You're able to add it up super quickly. Say you spend $25 at the store, and all you have to do is log that in there next to groceries, and you're done. And it gets a little bit more complicated if you're using credit cards or trying to hit the minimum spend. But the bare bones of it all is that as soon as you swipe that card or you get your receipt, log it in your phone in your notes app, and then you're done. And you know exactly what you spend, and you can tally it up at the end of the month. But going back on that, if you're using a credit card, you're able to do the same thing where it has the bank statements and the receipts, and you're able to set up alerts. So as soon as you swipe that card, it alerts your phone. So it's very easy to track. It's just hard to get into the habit of doing it. And the habit is the worst part because it is annoying. You don't want to do it. You might forget, but it's all sitting in there. So if you can set aside 10 or 15 minutes at the end of the week and just add all of that up together, it's going to be a lot easier to track your finances, and you're going to be able to know exactly where your money is going. So getting into the actual tracking, some of the categories I would recommend for students, and this goes for every single person that wants to track their money. Students just have an advantage because they don't have as many expenses yet. They're not going out and spending thousands of dollars every single month because they're in college. or they're still in high school learning how to do this, and they might not even have a credit card yet. So I would start tracking it as soon as possible and really build in that habit. So for students, some of the categories I recommend are groceries, takeout, personal, like what you spend on yourself, and then tracking your income. Those are it for students. And then you can always go back and figure out like if you're spending something on something different, but those are the bare bones. So the groceries, say if you go to the store and pick up ramen, you spent $5 on that, log it for $5. You go out to dinner with your friends, you spend $15, log it. Personal, this is going to be all of your sporting events, makeup, say you got a new golf club or a basketball, anything that you spend on yourself, that would go under that personal category. And I'll break it down a little bit later with the subcategories on how you can break that down. But the last part of that is the income. So you're going to be tracking your income as well. So every time you get your check, or it's all pretty much deposited now, you can see that deposit on your bank statement as well as your checking account, and just log it in there. $500, log it. And then at the end of the day or at the end of the month, you'll probably have 2 or 3 of those checks coming in, and then you subtract the expenses, the groceries, takeout, and personal expenses from your income. So it's just income minus expenses, and that's what you have left over to spend after you've allocated to your emergency account and savings account. So for a higher earner, you're starting to get into those people who have graduated after college, and not even a bad place to start. This is the fun part, because now you have a lot more expenses, and it's just a little bit more complicated to be able to figure out, but it's still the same process. So some of those categories, once you get out of college, that you're going to be adding is you're going to have a car, so you're probably going to be spending money on fuel. You're going to have subscriptions like Netflix and Spotify, Apple, which is what this podcast is on. You're going to have insurance, whether that's car insurance or personal insurance. You're going to have your mortgage or rent, and then, which is probably going to be your biggest expense unless you're house hacking, which we'll get into, figuring out how to live for very cheap or for free. And then you're going to have utilities for that, and then you're tracking your income as well. So those are the bare bones categories that you could just throw into your phone right now. So whether you're in college, you'll have the groceries, you'll have takeout and personal, and then you'll have your income. So that's only 4 things that you have to track. Super, super simple. So throw it into your notes app in your phone right now. And this is what I started doing when I was 19 years old, living on my own, just figuring it out for the first time. And this is how I was able to really know what my expenses were, how to not go over that limit, and be able to see, oh, I can actually save a little bit more. I can donate a little bit money and then start investing. So for that higher earner, once you get in there, you're going to have more line items, especially if you're a little bit older or have kids or just more responsibilities. So starting as soon as possible is the best. So to go through a little bit of what I have, my personal, so I have my groceries, I have my takeout, and then I have other, which is just a subcategory under groceries. So the subcategories, if you start to notice that you're spending a really high amount in, say, groceries, so that's every single thing you get from the store, that's when I break it down into a subcategory, because once you're going out to the store, what I noticed the first time grocery shopping was, so I set my budget at $50 a month or $50 a week. And sometimes if you had to get toothpaste or toilet paper or tissues, that eats into that $50 really, really quick. And then you have nothing left over for food. So what I did, I just put it as a subcategory underneath. And then once I got home from the store, I just subtracted that toilet paper and toothpaste from the total amount on that grocery receipt. And then I have my personal. So I have education, so all the books that I get. And then I have golf, because I like to golf. And then clothing. So those are the subcategories under personal that I've noticed that I spend a little bit more on every month, because when my personal spending is up into like the 200 or 300, it's like, okay, well, where and how am I spending that much money? So once you start breaking that down and noticing what you're doing, it's a little bit easier to track. And then I have fuel, and then I have an unexpected category. So those are just the things, say your tire goes flat and you have to spend $150 on getting a new tire. So that's what goes into that unexpected category. Just one of those freak things that happen. So those are all of my, kind of variable expenses. So variable expenses are something that's going to be changing every single month. Like, it's not locked in. You could spend $250 this month on groceries and $280 to $300 the next. It's just not locked into a number. So when you move into your set categories that aren't variable, that are going to be locked in, like your rent, your insurance, energy, or internet bills, that's when you can kind of automate this a little bit. So I have my mortgage, and then right below it I have the house hack on what I pay. So I have a $1,200 mortgage, and I only pay $450 out of my pocket every single month. And I live right up north of Charlotte in a growing area. So that's going to be any type of rent. So that's house hacking, which I'll break down at a later episode. So then I have my insurance, and then I have internet, my utilities, YouTube TV, Netflix, Spotify, and then my gym membership. So those are some of the categories I have, and you can break it down even further. You're going to know what you spend. So you're going to be the best person to put in those categories. And I'd love to be able to start helping people do that, because it's a pretty eye-opening experience when you start tracking these. And then I have and then I total all those expenses for the variable and then the set expenses. And then I have allocation. So I know exactly what I'm putting into my savings account, my emergency account, what I'm donating, and then what I'm investing. And then I go to income. So I have my work income. I have my pole vault lesson income. Then I have other income. Say your parents send you $200 that week. I put that into other income. And then I have my rental income from my house hack. And then I add all of those gains together, and then I take that income, all of it together, minus the expenses, and then I'm able to see what I have left over at the end of the month. So that's the bare bones of what I do and what my expenses and income categories look like, and I'd love to be able to break that down for other people. So how you're able to do this, all you do at the end of the month is you take whatever you've logged on your phone and then just put it into a spreadsheet. So those 4 categories for the students, it's going to be super, super easy. Just open up a Google spreadsheet, start listing them, and then at the top, list all 12 months, and then just log it, throw it in there. And then subtract your expenses from your income, and that's what you're able to see. And then even I like to put a total at the end, so I'm able to see what I spent on groceries the entire year. And it's pretty eye-opening once you get to the end of the year and you're able to see, oh my gosh, I spent that much money. And then from those numbers, you're able to set a budget, because you're going to know if you're underwater or above water. And you can say, oh, well, I'm saving so much, or I'm spending so much on this, I can cut back, or maybe I could even spend a little bit more, but you don't know until you track it. And then tracking it is where I have to start on everybody before we can even start talking about travel hacking and credit cards and which one to sign up for. So if you found this helpful, leave a review for me on Spotify or Apple, and then tune into the next one where we're going to be talking about house hacking or my specific house hack review on the next episode. Thanks for tuning in.